Welcome back to another episode of Direct Source Discourse. Joining us today, I feel I can call Eric this now over the last few years, a good friend and partner of Argyle, Eric Schlagheck. Eric, thank you so much for hopping on with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
As we typically do on these Direct Source Discourse episodes, what's your name, title, and what do you do for Lake Michigan?
Well, hi, John. My name is Eric Schlagheck. I'm the Director of Mortgage Processing. I also run our home equity lending team for Lake Michigan Credit Union, and I reside in the extreme corner of Southeast Michigan.
We might disagree, Ohio and Michigan. We'll keep that out of the topics for today. But let's start here. How did you get your start in this mortgage industry that we both work in?
Well, it really was by happenstance. A friend of mine got hired into the mortgage business, said he was having a really good time at it. So I went over and started in the mortgage business in January of 1997. So 30 years later, what I thought was going to be a short stint trying something out, here I am 30 years later. It's sunk its claws into me, and I'm not going anywhere.
So 30 years of experience. If I gave you a magic wand and there was one thing you could change in mortgage origination, mortgage lending, give it to me, Eric. What would it be?
I'd almost want to trade in the magic wand for a crystal ball. What keeps me up at night, John, is not the guidelines, it's not the regulatory stuff. Like we can handle that. That's not a problem. It's where are rates going to go? What's the market going to do? What are housing prices going to do? I would give a lot to be able to anticipate when that next boom's going to happen, when the next boom ends, when housing prices spike, when they go down. That's what I would love to do.
If you had that magic ball, Eric, you'd be one rich guy. I think there's a lot of people out there looking for that answer.
Yeah.
Um, I know we've talked about this before informally, but I'd love for our listeners to hear. Um, Give me like a scenario that you faced, in management Lake Michigan, a unique underwriting scenario, for example. Give me something that you've encountered in your career that you think, our listeners would want to hear from your experience.
Well, that's an interesting question, John, because after 30 years, I think I've seen my fair share of I've never seen that. I don't know how we deal with this. I don't know what we do with this. And it's not those unique scenarios that stick out to me. What sticks out to me are the things that I wasn't able to do at the time. We had a grandson that wanted to buy his grandparents' farmhouse, and it was frankly dilapidated. You couldn't live in it. It was not habitable. And where I was at, we didn't have a renovation program. And it was his passion to be able to buy the house that he grew up in, had Christmases in, had Thanksgivings in, wanted to be able to build his family there. And we weren't able to do it at that time. So, what I'm thankful for right now at the credit union is we're able to make a common sense approach to some of the problems that we have. And we're able to come up with these solutions that just a short time ago, or going back over the course of 30 years, that we didn't have. So I don't run into those problems as much anymore on the things that we couldn't do. So those are the things that stand out to me. It's the ones that I couldn't do, not necessarily the ones that I could.
Flipping a little bit, because part of this show is to get to know you, whether it's personal or professional. What would you say is one of your most proud moments? Whether it's, at Lake Michigan in your 30-year experience, but just overall.
Well, two things really. So professionally, it's the fact that I've enjoyed several roles both in sales and in operations when it comes to lending. So I'm appreciative of the people that I've worked with and the guidance that I've had over the years to have a more holistic view of what it takes to do a mortgage from end to end to the closing table. And I find where I'm at right now in the position that I'm in, I'm able to kind of return that favor. I'm able to mentor some people. So I'm excited to be able to do that and be able to return that favor over the years of learning that I have acquired. On a personal note, married with two boys, or I'm sorry, married, wife, two boys. They keep us very busy. My oldest just recently graduated high school.
When I first met you, you talking about your family, I haven't even asked. It's crazy that your son's already at that point, which is wild how much time flies. All right, Eric. So flipping into a little bit of mortgage here. I'm curious. You directly manage a massive operation at Lake Michigan, and there's a common theme out there. When is the boom happening? right? And I think the better question that I know that you've talked about before is like, what are you doing now to prepare for when rates drop? So I would love for you to shed some insight into that whole topic of when the boom comes, we all have our fingers crossed that it will come soon. What should folks in positions like yours be doing now as they think about when that hits?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe that you can never rest. You're constantly looking for areas that you can improve. When you think you've solved all your big rock problems, start looking on ways that you can just shave the corners off. So never sit back during the periods of time when business is slow. Always be looking for ways that you can improve efficiency. Another one I would say is technology. That's a big one. Are you on the right POS or LOS platform? Does it work for you? Does it work against you? Bots and automation. That's something that we're getting into and really trying to understand. I believe that's really going to be the next phase of execution when it comes to mortgage origination and processing. And the third thing is contract resources. Depending on when the boom happens, how quickly you make the move, when you get approval to add additional headcount, you might be late to the market, and the resources and the human resources that you have in your market might not be there anymore. So connecting with a good contract provider that has talent in the mortgage space, that knows how to process, that knows how to do loans, and really all you have to do is bring them up in your policies and procedures. It really minimizes the ramp up time, so you could expedite your ramp up, ramp down, whatever you need to do to handle that boom.
Yeah, I feel like I know one big story that we're talking a lot about is automation. And, obviously on the tech side of things, it's how do you introduce automation that's really actually impactful to loan manufacturing. And I think that is even now in the current market and even a bigger emphasis when you talked about when the boom happens, right? How are you leveraging your technology? So completely agree with you there. Okay, processing operations is your bread and butter. Now, here's a little off the wall question for you. One job in mortgage can't be ops, can't be underwriting. Were you saying if I could do one other thing in mortgage, what would it be?
I don't want to be anywhere where I'm not right now. I enjoy what I'm doing right now. But if I had to pick, I think it would have to be quality control. I might not be as big of a fan of murder mystery shows on TV that my wife is, but there is that element of trying to uncover and figure things out. And, we do that a little bit in processing when we try and figure out, okay, what happened? I had an approval and then I lost the approval, and you're doing your comparing and contrasting. But there in QC, where you're really looking at the file and trying to understand the story of the file based on what's presented to you, what were our areas of opportunity? What did we maybe mess up? What could we have done better? Where did we do really good? I think that would be something interesting to do.
There it is. Eric, post-close QC, bring it on. Bring it on. No, that's amazing. I've always been impressed in getting to know you in the leadership group at Lake Michigan, how you guys quickly familiarized yourself with like even Argyle, for example, but technology overall. I think you guys are kind of a unicorn in that way, how much when you go all in a partnership, you truly go all in. And would love to for you to share like how you guys, what steps do you take from an operational standpoint to onboard new technology and familiarize yourself with it? And maybe last beat is like, how do you get it to scale? Because you guys have just done a phenomenal job of that. And I think that change management piece is such a hard part for folks to understand when they're onboarding new tech.
Yeah, thank you, John. And I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head. When it comes to new technology or really any new process, I believe you can only do one thing is throw yourself in it. Like really immerse yourself in big or small. What is it that we just picked up? What is this piece of technology capable of? In the case of Argyle, there was definitely some things that none of our other VOE, VOI providers did, such as providing pay stubs, W-2s, turn times significantly faster at an economical price point. So how can we really leverage the heck out of this solution and really fully understand it? So it was beyond just going in there, clicking around, seeing what it did, but it was having roundtable discussions with sales, with processing, with underwriting, other users of the Argyle platform in that example of what is some scripting? What is the wording that we can use? What are some of the hangups that the borrower might have? Really trying to understand completely what this technology brings to maximize your ROI.
Two last questions for you. I think there's a lot, I've followed, the former MISMO president, Dave Coleman, who's talked about the one-click mortgage. How do you make mortgage lending more efficient? So I loved your take on like, what does an efficient mortgage mean to you?
An efficient mortgage, it's really simple. People get lost in the complexities and the details and how you make an efficient mortgage process. But it really is from the beginning, from the moment that the borrower is introduced to the loan officer, all the way through that closing. Did we do everything as quickly as we could? Did we have as little amount of hands in the process as possible? Meaning we didn't have too many cooks in the kitchen. We didn't have a siloed process. There wasn't too many single threaded processes, really making it flow. And when it flows, it feels good. Like it's hard, it's not tangible, right? Like you can quantify it in cycle time, but there's something about when a loan is in the process and the loan officer's done their job, the processor's done their job, the underwriter's done their job, it just flows. So, it just happens. So an efficient mortgage process is just something that flows. Everything works. The systems are all synced up. Everything's firing on all cylinders.
All right. Last question, most important question. Who do you got winning the Super Bowl and why?
None other than Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. That is grit. That is finding a way to win. And I tell you what a success story that team has been. It's been exciting to watch. So I'm hoping they take it all the way.
As you know, I'm a diehard Browns fan, but I will say I am pulling for Detroit at this point. So I'm all in. Let's go, Lions. That's it for this episode of Direct Source Discourse. Eric, I know you're awfully busy. Thank you so much for hopping on with us. And stay tuned for more episodes to come. Thanks, everybody.